Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. I thought we would just jump back in here. Bitcoin is at 63.5. Okay, I mean it's not at an all-time high, but it's doing relatively okay. If you look at it on the shorter time frame, and we draw some imaginary lines, it seems like it's getting a nice bounce here. It's moving higher, but really, clearly the talk of the day is more so Ethereum. Okay, Ethereum has continued to rally. Now the Ether Bitcoin valuation over the last 6 months or so has actually been going sideways. Okay, we don't actually see this that often where the Ether Bitcoin valuation more or less just goes sideways. I mean, yeah, it went down and then it came back up and then it came back down. But it's mostly going sideways rather than either going up or down, which I think is somewhat interesting. So we'll see. I mean, the prior local high for Ethereum back in August against Bitcoin was just below 0.08. Back in May, it was 0.082. So we still have a long way to go to get there, but we'll probably make it there eventually. I don't know about this year. Maybe this year. We'll see. The USD valuation, though, is extremely interesting to me right now because we are on approach to 4,500. I actually think we already went to 4,500, if I'm not mistaken. Well, there we have it, right? We're at 4,500 right now, so you can put it in the books if you don't believe the wick over here that took us to 4,500. We have seen now a $4,500 Ethereum. And there you have it, right? $4,500. More than $100 higher than the prior all-time high back in May, and now it has me wondering what a $4,600 Ethereum would feel like. So I do think that the market still looks really, really strong. Ethereum looks extremely bullish. Could there be shakeouts along the way up? Yeah, there could, but it doesn't change the fact that Ethereum, I believe still Ethereum remains incredibly bullish. I mean, just look at the chart. Just look at the chart, right? Continuing to move up. If you go look at the weekly time frame, I mean, we're completely clear of this wick over here. Now, ideally, we'll close the week up here. That would be nice, okay? That would be incredibly nice if Ethereum could actually close the week well above the prior all-time high. I think that would look even better. Right now, the highest weekly close is at 42.88. Okay, it's at 42.88. We're currently now at 45.02. All right, so Ethereum still looks pretty good. This is now the fourth week in a row where we're green. We had this green one as well with one red. This was barely red too. So Ethereum looks good. Bitcoin is now at 63.6K. Our dubious speculation of if Bitcoin holds the 20-week, we should have clear skies ahead. It seems like that thesis has played out fairly well, right? It's just a bunch of if-then statements. If Bitcoin holds the line, okay, then we should have clear skies ahead. We held the line, we've had clear skies ahead. I mean, yeah, maybe there's been a couple of clouds to get through. Obviously, we know it's been a little bit of an issue getting through some of these upper clouds up here and then staying above them. But at the end of the day, I still would argue that Bitcoin more or less has clear skies ahead. It's just a matter of time before we ultimately break through. And I mean, even if we were to drop back down, I still think we're ultimately trending up. You can see our general uptrend is we're still nowhere near that. And I mean, if we just went sideways for long enough, we'd hit this uptrend, but probably not going to happen, right? It's probably more likely that Bitcoin trends higher than going sideways into this. Now, if we were to continue to stay higher and then we were to get a drop, I would say let's keep an eye on this trend line, or maybe more importantly, it would be worth keeping an eye on the 20-week SMA, which is now moving up relatively quickly. And if we go look at it here on the weekly time frame, you can see that the 20-week is now at around $47,000. Okay, so the 20-week SMA is now at around 47,000. The 21-week EMA is over 50K. So I think things are looking good. Is the chat not? Okay, there the chat is. I didn't see the chat for a minute. Do I consider the fear and greed index as a good indicator? It's an interesting question. I mean, I think it more or less tells you what you already know, right? It more or less tells you what you already know. You can kind of feel the greed in the air if everyone's greedy. You can also feel the fear in the air when everyone's fearful. I think if I pull it up here, let's pull it up, the fear and greed index. So this is what he's talking about. He's talking about the crypto fear and greed index. You can see it says right now we're in greed. Yesterday was greed, last week was extreme greed, last month was neutral. But if you go look at it over time, I think, there's some nice things about it, but then I don't know about others. I mean, look at this. Like we were at a fear and greed index of 88 on November 7th of 2020. So, I mean, on November 19th, we were at a fear and greed index of 94. So if you use the fear index to completely liquidate your entire Bitcoin position or something on November 19th because the fear index was at 94, I mean, you would have missed out on so much gains from them. Like, let's go back to November 19th and see where Bitcoin was, okay, of 2020. So November 19th of 2020, that would have been this week. I mean, Bitcoin was just approaching the prior all-time high. So if you use the fear and greed index to say, all right, well, I mean, it's at 94, you would have completely missed. I mean, you would have completely missed what came after it. So do I think it's useful? I mean, I think it's somewhat useful, but I think it does more or less tell you what you already know. I mean, you can kind of tell if people are fearful. You can tell if people are greedy. But I think you should use it to trade your crypto? Probably not. I mean, again, if you used it to trade your crypto in the past, I mean, this would have been the highest it can basically go would be 100. And if it's trading it at these valuations, and if it can just stay at those same levels for, from November, mid-November all the way until January 12th, I don't know. I mean, it seems like if you used it to sell, you would have missed out on a decent amount. And then it dropped significantly, and then was just right back up. And you can see that by the time we had the crypto crash, before the crash even occurred, it had already gone all the way down to 72 from a high of approximately 94 or so. So do I think it's useful? I think maybe it's somewhat useful. Should I, would I say you should trade your crypto based on what this is flashing? I don't think so. I mean, I think it should maybe just put you on alert that, hey, things are getting kind of crazy, or hey, maybe it's a good time to DCA. But should you sell your crypto every time it goes up here? I don't think so. If you did it in the past, you would have missed out on tons of gains that came after it. So that's my general opinion on the fear and greed index. Someone says we're in a bear market. If this is a bear market, it makes me really excited for what a bull market looks like. Where is the house? Yeah, I guess we didn't do the house today. Let's see where Ethereum is. I mean, we had already broken through 4,500 by the time I started live streaming. If you go to the minute time frame, we had already hit it over here. So it didn't seem as useful. Yeah, I do need to get a haircut. Maybe I'll go in today. It's just the last time I got a haircut, the market crashed. So back in May. So I don't know that it's the smartest decision, but it's getting too long. All right, let's take a look at some of the other indicators. So if we go look at our corridor here, let's see where it currently is what does it currently say? So the corridor now has the instantaneous Bitcoin bounds at over 30K, which is nice to see it's over 30K at the bottom, and over 115K at the top. So this just shows that instantaneously 130K is theoretically possible. Or no, sorry, not 130, 115. Theoretically 115K is possible based on this corridor. Do I think we're going to go to 115K today? No, I don't. Do I think Bitcoin is ultimately headed to 115K? Hell yeah. It's more than likely headed there. And by the time it makes it to 115K, the upper bound on this should be even higher. So again, as I said before, time is on our side, right? Time is on our side. As long as the longer it takes us to get up there, the better off we'll all be. So I would say let's just, a slower move up is fine by me. If it starts moving up too quickly, then we hit the bounds on some of the various metrics, and then we have to come down a while, just like we did over here, just like we've done in the past. But as long as we're kind of in the middle, which, we're sort of in the middle here, then we still have plenty of room up, right? We still have plenty of room up. This is a logarithmic scale. You can note that from here to here is about a 2x, and then from here to here is also about a 2x almost. So, we're more or less maybe slightly above, but we're more or less in the middle of the corridor. So I would say we still have plenty of room to move higher. Of course, we could go lower if something crazy happened in the market, but even then, our lower bound is already moving up as well. So, I think this looks pretty good. And again, the upper bound on it now is at a very modest $115,000, and it's only going to increase with time, right? It's only going to increase with time. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe if you're not subscribed. What other indicators would you guys like to look at? We can look at the regression bands. This one is this is one we've had on here for a long time. I personally think there. As you can see, the prior cycle sort of went up to the top of this one, and back in April we got rejected by the lower bound on it, and I've speculated since then that we should be able to fly higher. I am actually leaning at this point, based on some of the other metrics that I use, I think there's a good chance that we actually can come above this regression line. I'm not saying we're going to go to like 300 or 400K, but there still is a decent chance we could overshoot it some. Okay, so I wouldn't necessarily take this one to the bank on 3 data point fit, as I've said before, but we're not even in it right now, so I don't think it's relevant at all. And that one is already over 112,000. So even by this one, we're at 112,000 already on the upper bound, and it's only going to continue to move away from us with time. So even there, I would argue that time remains on our side. And even with regards to this metric, I think it's certainly possible that we could overshoot the upper regression band. We can also look at the regression rainbow. If we were to drop down one regression band, then it would have us going up to this one, which is already at 150K. All right. So depending on how closely you measure it, you could say that this is dropping down 3 regression bands. This is dropping down 2 regression bands. It's sort of 2.5, but I think it's this one rounds to 3. This one we could say rounds to 2. This one, if it does go to one regression band down, then we're still looking at a potential. At the current time, it would lead to 150K Bitcoin. Okay, which is more in line with where I would think it would be. I certainly would say 140, 150K Bitcoin is possible, or is possible within the next 6 months that Bitcoin goes to 150K. For it to go to 200K, I think we need a bit more time, right? I think it can make it to 200K this market cycle, but I don't think it's going to make it to 200K by the end of the year. If it does, then I'll be wrong, right? If it makes it to 200K by the end of the year, then I'll be wrong. But I think we need a little bit more time to make it to 200K. Don't think 200K is in the cards this year. Okay, I don't think 200K is in the cards this year. It might be next year though. If the cycle continues on like I think it will, then 200K could be in the cards sometime next year potentially. What else you guys want to look at? We can look at the pi cycle stuff. The pi cycle stuff historically. think the idea is that it's supposed to predict the top to within 3 days. Did a pretty good job this last one. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I think it's done pretty well so far. So I think the question now is, well, we'll switch this over to the daily. When could we theoretically get another one? Might be a decent question to ask, right? When could we theoretically get another pi cycle top? I mean, right now they're not even close, right? They're not even close to each other at all right now. They're extremely far away from each other. And in fact, I mean, if you look at the last time they were, I mean, let's just take a measured move here to see how far apart they are. That's about an 80% difference between the two. Let's go look at this width. Let's look at this width right here. That was about a 70%. And I mean, from here, from September, it took until April to have another to have a pi cycle cross when it was even less extended than this one. Now the slope on this one is moving up a bit quicker, we have to admit. So if we were to, I mean, it's hard to dubiously speculate on some of this stuff because it's going to be very highly dependent on what the price does over the next several months, right? I mean, if the price comes back down, then some of this will start to curve back over. But if it continues this trajectory, then you can imagine that, you know, this is probably going to trend higher, right? And it's hard to know exactly how quickly it'll trend. I mean, this one seems to be more like going up in a straight line at this point, so maybe we can just extend that one out. Let's do something like that. And then I guess it just becomes, well, how long would it theoretically take for the lower one to ultimately catch it? And clearly that will be highly dependent on how quickly the price of Bitcoin moves up, right? But maybe we would see something like that if it moves up too quickly. If it doesn't move up that quickly, then, you know, maybe it would continue on like this for a while and then go up higher. I don't know. I mean, we'll certainly take it one step at a time, as I've said before. But again, after we crossed it over here, we still had about 6 months or so before we had a pi cycle top, and we're further away from that now. So if this just continues kind of going humdrum for a while, then it could be even further out. Okay, so I think it's a useful indicator to follow, and if we get a cross again, I think people should probably pay attention because the last time it crossed, more or less covered where the top was. Okay, so probably a useful indicator to follow, but as I've said, like right now they're nowhere close. Okay, like right now they're nowhere close to each other. This one down here is at 48K, 47,842, and this one up here is at 85,747. So yet another indicator that would lead us to believe that time is on our side, right? Time is ultimately on our side, and we should have a ways to go, even measured by this indicator. If we look at our fair value, which is a fit to all the data, as long as we're above that, I think we're looking good. All right. So as long as we stay above that, and I'll tell you the reason why. I'll tell you the reason why I'm saying that. As long as we're above that, the market cycle should continue on. I'm just sort of noting that anytime we fell below the fair value, it led to an accumulation phase before another parabolic rally, right? But here we held it as support and we got another parabolic rally. When we fail to hold it, we get a long accumulation phase. Okay, when we fail to hold it, we get a long accumulation phase. Here we held it as support. So the argument goes, well, as long as we're above the fair value, then it seems likely that we could continue higher, right, into further parabolic rallies. If you're curious where the fair value is today, it's at around 30K. All right, so I mean, this is just based on one logarithmic regression fit. So as long as we stay, I mean, note that this is increasing. So, you know, give it another few months or so, and the fair value will continue climbing. It'll be about 40K, then about 50K. But as long as we're above that, I would still argue that we're still looking pretty good, and we still have a lot more upside potential. I think the interesting thing, you know, if you take the price of Bitcoin and divide it by M2, as we've said before, we have not technically put in a new all-time high. Now, remember, M2 has not been updated. I think it stopped getting updated on here. Oh, sorry, this is the velocity. Which one did I get here? WM. Okay, yeah. So we'll do WM2. So this one. So you can see the last time this was updated, actually it was like updated October 4th. Okay, so it's still more or less keeping pace here. But if you look at this one, This is the one where we have not technically put in an all-time high yet. I think we will, make no mistake about it. I do think Bitcoin will put in a new all-time high, even when you take into account the money supply. But this is one that we have not yet put in a new all-time high on, if you just look at where Bitcoin is. Because in order to get to a new all-time high, when accounting for the money supply, M2, we still need to go up from the current price, from the current valuation of Bitcoin. We still need to go up about 5.5%, right? 5.5% to put in a new all-time high. And clearly, as measured from the prior market cycle top, local top back in April of 2021, we already put in a new all-time high. And when we talk about prior market cycle tops, it was in fact back in the summer when we hit the bottom over here was the prior market cycle top. So again, when you account for the money supply, we already did hit the prior all-time high. So I know some people kept saying we have to go back down to 20K or we have to go back down to 14K. Look, if you account for the money supply, we already did test it. And I think you should take into account that when you get 300 million people get an airdrop of an altcoin USD, then it's going to affect the market, right? I feel like there's a decent chance that's going to have an effect on the market. So when you account for the money supply, you can in fact see that we did in fact test the prior all-time high. But if you also account for the money supply when looking at the prior local top, we have not yet put in a new all-time high, which, as I said before, that could be why Bitcoin hasn't gone into a parabolic manic rally yet, is because maybe by this metric it hasn't put in an all-time high. When it does, maybe things will move quickly. I would anticipate things could start moving quickly whenever Bitcoin does put in a new all-time high when you account for the money supply. Until then, this is price discovery mode for ants. Am I right? We're looking at price discovery, and we have Bitcoin going up a few K and then just coming right back down. We have Ethereum going up some and then kind of hanging out. A lot of these different cryptocurrencies, yeah, they're putting in new all-time highs, but then it's like there's not really a lot of follow-through yet, So I do think we will get follow-through. I don't mean to say that we won't. I just think that I'm trying to come up with reasons for some reason as to why the price discovery mode hasn't been quite as manic, okay? And maybe it's just because we're still waiting on Bitcoin to decisively break out above its prior all-time high and to decisively break out when accounting for the money supply. Ethereum still looks relatively good. I mean, it's continuing to climb higher, just had a wick all the way up to 45.18, it looks like. But now it's at 45.07, so Ethereum still looks good. Why should today be any different than any other day, right? It's been looking good for years now. So I think Ethereum is certainly, I would argue it's undervalued with respect to a lot of other with respect to the altcoin market. I think Ethereum's undervalued. I think people give Ethereum too hard of a time for some of the things that it's dealing with, but at the end of the day, once they solve a lot of this stuff, it's going to render a lot of other chains obsolete. Not all of them. I don't mean to step on any toes by any stretch of the imagination, but a lot of layer ones will ultimately not prevail. Hopefully, I mean, it seems like Ethereum will. I think Ethereum is a blue chip, and some of the other layer ones will be there along with it. Probably be a multi-chain world, but make no mistake about it. Not every layer one will survive. Okay, make no mistake. Just go back and look at prior market cycles and take a look at the top 10. Half of them you probably won't even recognize. Okay, so just remember that. Time is on our side, especially for Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then a lot of altcoins, there's a decent chance that time is on their side too, right? And we talk about some of the altcoins. But at the end of the day, 20 years from now, what do you think is going to be around? Well, I think we could say, Bitcoin should be around, Ethereum's likely going to be around. And as far as the altcoins, yeah, there's probably going to be some of them that are going to be around. But it's like trying to pick what car dealership or what car manufacturer was going to be successful decades ago. It's easy in hindsight to know which ones. It can be hard when you're actually in the moment trying to pick them. So just be careful. I mean, I think a lot of money is to be made in the altcoin market for sure, and I have sizable altcoin positions myself. But don't forsake the blue chips either. All right, so Ethereum is now at 45.11, whereas Bitcoin's trying to break through 64K. So we are getting to the prior all-time high of April, right? Of April, that would be there. I mean, we know we have exceeded that this time around already, but that is what we're looking at. All right, now Bitcoin is above 64K. This is the prior April high. this is the new all-time high right here. So we have the prior April 2021 high, and then here's the current all-time high. All right, and then DOT, yeah, DOT looks good. I think DOT looks really good. I mean, like the minute time frame, of course, but this, if you go look at DOT, I don't know how you look at this, and I mean, it looks very bullish to me, as I've mentioned many times. I think DOT is a good project, all the way down from what, $2 or $3 earlier this cycle. Now it's at 51. I think it's got a ways to go. All right, Bitcoin's moving a little bit here. It's now at 64.1. Okay, we're now at 64.1. So let's see if we can take out the prior all-time high back in April. I mean, above that, we need to get to 67K. We're probably not going to get to that on this stream, because I don't imagine Bitcoin's going to rally $3,000 in the time that I'm going to be on this stream. But maybe we can take out the prior all-time high of April. All right, we are now at 64,226. We are moving pretty quickly. I mean, to get to a new all-time high from here, it's about a 4% move, 4.5% move to get to a new all-time high. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed, give the video a thumbs up. We do have a Telegram channel. If you guys want to join it, I would recommend you check it out. I'll post it here. Actually, I'll post the alert. There's a public alerts channel that you guys should join if you're not already in it. I'll post it in the chat if you guys want to join it. All right, Bitcoin's now at 64.1K. DOT, and remember, DOT's also in price discovery mode. So you have Ethereum in price discovery mode. You have DOT in price discovery mode. We still don't have Bitcoin in price discovery mode, but yeah, the new all-time high for ETH is now 45.22. 45.22. If someone says M2 is in price discovery mode, well, it always is, right? Some people said this is bonkers. We're not even an all-time high right now. This isn't bonkers yet. This is just it's just Bitcoin doing what Bitcoin does. Right? I mean, these are the same prices we were at 6 months ago. It's not bonkers yet. When it's bonkers, you'll know, but I don't think it's bonkers yet. Yeah, this is just a Tuesday in the cryptoverse, right? This is why people are in the cryptoverse. Is because this is just a Tuesday in the cryptoverse. All right, let's see ETH. ETH is now at 45.07. We can switch this back over to the minute time frame since you guys seem to prefer that on the live stream, so we can actually see something happening. So yeah, I mean, it's looks pretty good, right? I mean, I'd still say Ethereum looks extremely good. I'd like to see a $5,000 ETH soon. That'd be nice. I don't know how quickly it'll happen, but I'm also excited for Q1 and maybe even Q2 of 2022 for Ethereum. We know that it does extremely well during those times. Until then, we see more slower moves up, which is kind of like what we've been seeing over the last several weeks, right? If we just go look at the last several weeks, this has been a long accumulation phase, and now we are finally breaking out of it, right? We're finally starting to break out of this long reaccumulation phase for Ethereum. So it's certainly been a long 6 months, right? I mean, I know a lot of you guys have stuck around. Congratulations to those who have. I'm sure it feels good to feel justified in the reasons why you stuck around the cryptoverse. But it's certainly been a long year for sure. And we are now, I'd say it looks like we are now finally breaking out of our long reaccumulation zone. Okay? So it's been a long time coming, that's for sure. I should get a mohawk. I don't think so. Oh, look, we're at 45.23. Let's go take a look here on this one. That was a new all-time high. All right, we're watching ETH here. All right, 45.18. Did I take any profits this cycle? I did take profits earlier this year, during our first bubble. But then I reallocate. I reallocated in the summer. I've been continuing to reallocate. But yeah, I did take profits earlier this year. All right, 45.24. We got a new all-time high. Book it in the books, right? In the history books right there, 45.24. You saw it here first. That's a new Ether all-time high. All right, we're at 45.21. Let's go take a look here let's look at some Ethereum indicators. You know what's interesting, and I know this, it's so crazy it just might work, but if you overlay the Bitcoin logarithmic regression band on Ethereum, then maybe the lower bound of the Bitcoin regression band will be the upper bounds of Ethereum's market cycles, right? So again, I wouldn't try this at home. I certainly don't take it to the bank, because I guarantee you, they won't cash this then. I can guarantee you that. And you can take that to the bank, is that they won't cash it in. But maybe something interesting to watch, right? If we can make it up here. I mean, the middle line is already at like 17K. Right? Yeah, 17,072 is where we already are. On the middle, the lower bound on it is already at 11.5K. It's only going higher. So maybe the lower bound for Bitcoin's regression here is going to be the market cycle peak for Ethereum. That'd be one hell of a journey by Ethereum. And look at this journey. Look at this journey. I'm happy I've gotten a ticket to that train. Right? Speaking of trains, the DOT train is continuing on. And the DOT train is one that, I mean, I got my ticket. That's for sure. That's for damn sure I got my ticket. Looks like another bounce off the 20-day. Remember, back over here, we liked bouncing off the 20-day. We bounced off the 20-day at a modest $8. We bounced off of it at $16. We bounced off of it at $30. We've been trying to get back on course, get back on track, so to speak. We had a bounce here at 25. We did fall below, though, and now we just had another bounce off of it at around $41, $42. I have high hopes for DOT this market cycle. High hopes. And, I mean, I'm certainly not getting out of bed for a $51 DOT. That's for sure. But we'll see where it takes us. We'll see where the journey takes us, and we'll be here every step of the way, of course. If you go look at Ethereum, actually, I kind of wonder what this corridor looks like on this chart, how well the corridor works out. So basically, the idea with the corridor is anytime we're getting above it, it typically means we're at least going to have a short-term pullback. Doesn't necessarily mean we can't go up, but riding that line tends to be sort of our bound. Okay, it sort of seems to be our bound even when looking at it like this, right? So if you're curious where that number is today, that number today for Ethereum, already 7,775. So we would have to get up there just to be even flirting with that area. And then once we even get up there, we could ride that line for months potentially before breaking back down. So that's where the line is. That's the line in the sand, at least in the short term on Ethereum, is to say, well, it seems like based on that indicator, the $7,775 ETH is in fact theoretically possible. And that as long as we don't head up there, time is on our side, and that it will continue trending higher, which is what we want, right? We want it to trend higher. How much does DOT have to go up for me to get out of bed? I don't know, man, but I mean, a $51 DOT certainly isn't going to do it. I mean, it was at $50 6 months ago. Okay, so no. I think we saw, as I said before, I want to make sure that people kind of have an expectation of where we think the cycle is headed. And I've always said, I've said this for years on the channel, even going back to 2019 when the market capitalization of the entire asset class was just a couple hundred billion, when it was 200-300 billion. The entire asset class, not just Bitcoin. But what did we say? We said, look, the entire asset class, this market cycle, should go to approximately 10 trillion. 10 trillion. And today, look, we're not even at 3 trillion yet. So as far as I'm concerned, the asset class has a ways to go, right? For the entire market cycle. Now, we can talk about local tops and whatnot, and we called the local top back in April and May. I said, look, we need a summer low, guys. We're ahead of schedule. The risk bands are flashing. We're at the top of the risk metric. We need to go down for a while. And I said we need 3 to 6 months before we can continue our journey. And here we are. We're continuing our journey 6 months later. We're now 6 months later. A lot of different cryptocurrencies are putting in new all-time highs. But I'd still argue that whatever happens between now and 10 trillion, I think that the asset class should make it to 10 trillion this market cycle, which means we got time. Right? Time is on our side. We're currently at 2.73 trillion. I think a lot of people are sort of, you know what I think actually, I've meant to say this before. I think a lot of people have PTSD from 2018. And they saw what happened in 2018. And then so back in April, they thought that was the market cycle top, right? They looked at it and said, all right, guys, we had all these things. We dropped below the 20-week. This is a dead cap bounce. The problem, as I said back then, is if you operate too deterministically about crypto and assume that just because it goes back to the 50-week that the market cycle is over, you could end up losing money. So what seems to have happened, it's almost like the people that got in a cycle before, some of them I think have done worse than the people that just joined this cycle, because the people that just joined this cycle, they just keep happily buying. You have the people from 2018 that a lot of them thought we were heading into a multi-year bear market following the April local top, just because they saw things playing out in a very similar manner, and then they said, all right, well, the move to 53K is just a dead cat bounce. But look, there is a difference. There's a difference between this cycle and last cycle. And namely, what is that difference between this cycle and last cycle? You guys should know what the difference is at this point, right? I shouldn't have to tell you. We held the line. Okay, we didn't hold the line last cycle. This cycle, we held the damn line. And when you hold the line, you get clear skies ahead. And historically speaking, when we hold the line, we never go below that valuation. Now, am I going to sit here and say that we can never go below 40K? I'm not going to say we can't ever do it, but what did I say even when we were over here? What did I say? I said every time in the past for Bitcoin, every single time, ever, that Bitcoin held the line, we never went below that price again. Okay? So what does that mean? How can Ben say that we're never going to go below 40K? Well, it's possible we go below 40K, but look, if I had to guess, if you said, Ben, You have to guess. Will Bitcoin ever go below 40K again? I would look. I'm not going to say it can't, but if I had to guess, I'd say probably not. Right? I'd say probably not. If I were a betting man, I would say probably not. And the only reason is not because it's just like it fits my narrative or anything like that. It's just say, look, every time we held the line before, we never went past that price. And if you go back and look at it over here in April of 2017, that ended up being the bottom of the next market cycle, and that was the last test of the 20-week moving average the cycle before. Okay, and that test occurred in September. So when I look at this today and I say, look, I mean, we went to 40K. There's a decent chance that we never go below that valuation ever again. Ever. There's a decent chance because we've never fallen below it after holding it in the past. And that's what we're ultimately trying to say. I'm not trying to be sensationalist or anything like that or feed you some BS that I don't believe in. I'm just saying, look, every time we held it in the past, we never dropped below it. Therefore, if we were to dubiously speculate or extrapolate that trend, we might assume that Bitcoin will never go below 40K ever again. And the people that are waiting for 10K are going to be growing old, waiting for a $10,000 Bitcoin, because it's just simply never going to happen, right? It's just simply never going to happen. I think I saw one of them. I think you guys maybe know what I'm talking about. Have you guys seen this before? I saw a bear, a Bitcoin bear the other day in the wild, actually, and he was one of the bears that was waiting for a $10,000 Bitcoin, right? And I wanted to show him to you. I took a picture of him. He's a Bitcoin bear waiting for 10K, right? This is my point, right? They're just going to wait. They're going to be waiting forever, right? They're going to be waiting forever, waiting for 14K forever, waiting for 20K forever. It's just probably not going to happen, right? It's just probably not going to happen. And then they're going to grow old waiting for it to happen. So they'll be there, of course, to tell you when they think the next bear market's going to occur again, right? They'll be there to say that, of course. And eventually they'll get it right. But at what cost, right? How many times do you have to get it wrong before you get it right? And it's the same thing that goes with the stock market. People call for stock market crashes all the time. And most people are wrong. Most people get it wrong. The bulls make a lot more money, right? You just happily buy stocks, right? You just keep happily buying as if, there's no worry in the world, and it generally trends higher, and then eventually the market dumps, and then even then it recovers pretty quickly and continues on. So yeah, I spotted one of these bears in the wild, and I wanted to take a picture and show you guys. They're waiting for 10K Bitcoin. All right, Bitcoin's now at a very modest 64.1K. Ethereum is at 4509. I mean, a lot of the indicators I follow still show we have plenty of upside. Even with shakeouts along the way. And we've had plenty of shakeouts. Just the other day, we went to 62K, and then we went all the way back down below 60K, right? And now we're back up to 64. And maybe later this week, we'll go back down to 62 or 61 or something. It doesn't matter, right? It just doesn't matter. It's just background volatility. No one cares about this. No one's getting out of bed for these short-term moves. Just keep your eyes on the prize, right? And the prize, theoretically, is much higher than where we are today. But in order to get there, we need time and we need lots of it. So right now, Bitcoin is at 64.2, almost, 64,180. Remember to check out the premium list if you guys want. You get access to the weekly reports and videos, the Telegram alerts channel, Telegram chat room, the risk dashboard, and more. I'll post it in the chat if you guys want to join it. Yeah, it'll be interesting when we break 3 trillion. I'm probably not going to break it today, but that'll be quite the milestone. When we get to 3.3 trillion, then we'll essentially be at 1/3 of where I think the asset class is going this cycle, once we get to 3.3 trillion. So I think the key thing to take away, as always, right, is time is on our side. We just need time and lots of it. All right. Should we wrap it up there? What else do you guys want to talk about? Can I take a look at VeChain? Now this is VeChain ETH. This would hopefully be the scenario we see play out. This is the VeChain Ether valuation. You can see that it kind of comes back down to these levels and then rockets back off again. I don't know if it's going to make it down to this level, but if it did, it might make for a nice trade. Yeah, I would just keep an eye on the VeChain Ether valuation and see where that ultimately goes here in the short term. Okay. You can see the move from these local hot highs here, 182 days and 224 and 280. We're clearly far away from that right now. ADA, yeah, we can talk about ADA. ADA is now at 198. I told you guys months ago. It's going to have a lull going into the launch of smart contracts. It should drop down for a while. Long consolidation. We're going to need to prove ourselves to actually have some development in the Cardano ecosystem. And then I said, look, if Bitcoin stays healthy, this is the box where I would envision ADA breaking out. Not before then. This is the box. Sometime between mid-November to late March. That's when I think it'll make its move. Until then, I think we're still kind of in this range. So that was what I said. I'm sticking to it. Nothing has changed, right? I don't change my prediction every single week like some people, okay? I don't change my prediction based on what's doing in a single hourly candle. This is what I said a long time ago. I said months ago we're likely going to rally into smart contracts and then come down after it into a long consolidation phase until actually there's some development in the ecosystem. Until then, we're likely just sort of in this range here. Eventually, once we get that development that we're looking for, the Plutus back in, we'll hopefully break out to the upside. Until then, this is the game, right? This is the game. Link Link's doing okay. No one's getting out of bed for a $32 Link either, but it's doing okay. And I still remain fairly bullish on Link. I think the main issue with Link is that we've watched it bleed against Ethereum for so long. So ideally, we'd like to see it actually get back above its own bull market support band against Ethereum, because Ethereum is intrinsically, in my opinion, less risky than Link. I know a lot of people aren't going to like that to hear that, but I mean, it's more or less just from like a market capitalization, blue chip, crypto point of view. And Link still bleeding against Ethereum. So what do we want to see with the Link? I think Link USD still looks relatively good. Link Ether still looks absolutely atrocious, and we want to get back above that bull market support band and then continue higher. That's what we did before, and then look what happened. Okay, that's what we did before. That's what we want to see happen again. Until that happens, Link's still bleeding against ETH. So that's what we're looking for the Link Ether valuation. Link Bitcoin looks actually a little bit better. So Link Bitcoin looks a little bit better than Link ETH. It's certainly possible that we're in this sort of long consolidation phase here, right? And we'll ultimately hopefully break out to the upside, maybe by early 2022. So. All right, guys, why don't we wrap it up there? We're sort of back below 64K and 4,500 for Bitcoin and ETH, respectively. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, check out the premium list, into thecryptoverse.com. Click the bell icon to turn on notifications. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.